All right, let's start on this quilt since I found it. Now this is an old quilt and it's made out of sheets. So that's how we got Poor Man Sewing. Let's get our batting. Alright, let's see if this batting will be big enough to work on this quilt. No, we're going to have to get more batting. Let's see what we can do about getting some batting out here. May have to have more than that.
Bad end of the deal, didn't you, Brother David?
Yeah, I did. And all of these things are related. All of these right in the same time frame. We've got Operation High Jump, the creation of the NSA. We got Roswell. We got poor Mr. Forrestal starts the NSA, then he jumps out of the top story window at Bethesda Naval Medical Hospital. Now, let's just say a word about that. There have been a list of people that have went in Bethesda Naval Medical Hospital not to ever come out. Another famous one was McCarthy, who was the fighter against communism in the early 50s. He went in, never come out. And by the way, remember where the autopsy was performed on John F. Kennedy? You got it, at the Bethesda Naval Medical Hospital. Now, we did a midnight ride some time back. I don't even know if it's still on the channel, but it was called, I can't remember, I think we might have called it the Hoosier Illuminati. But in this, we were talking about the, no, it was called the Mystic Knights of Corvus, I believe. But anyway, there was a lady that was the daughter of the head of the Mystic Knights of Corvus. And they are the head of putting on the Mardi Gras down in New Orleans. And according to this lady, that her father had left a box under his bed that she inherited after his death. And in this box, he told quite the story, how that there was a secret society started at the big medical center down there in Louisiana, and that it was started at the same time that the Skull and Bones were started. That the fella, William Russell, and him, this other fella, were best friends, and that while William Russell started the Skull and Bones, this other fellow started a Skull and Bones that only doctors were a part of. And has anyone seen anyone in the medical industry that lies faster than a dog could trot? We've seen a few of those, haven't we? And we see a secret society. There's many, many wonderful people in the medical industry that they are there with all of their heart to do good. But according to this lady, there was a secret society that carried out assassinations through medical doctors. And, you know, I believe, that's my opinion, but I believe Mr. Forrestal, Mr. McCarthy, and others that have been taken out, just what we could call medical assassinations.
Well, it's interesting, David, too, when we think about this and in the collaboration of the JFK narrative and whatnot, you know, there's so many movies and MK Ultra, all those different programs and applications that came out. So I have a question for you. So we're talking about Skull and Bones, all these secret societies. What if, David, this is just me, my speculation here. What if all the Space Force, because there's all these Space Force logos, they say they have these different platoons, or however you say it. They different sections or sanctions to different logos. When it comes to Space Force, I've seen multitude of them. It's really strange. What if it's just a different logo, different tie to back to the ancient day, like that the older days of the Skull and Bones, the secret societies. What if it's the same thing? Because according to Lockheed Martin and all these gentlemen coming out of these whistleblowers, say that we have secret space programs that are been around for 70+ years or longer. Their claims. They're saying, well, we should have been living in a dystopia, like high tech advancements back in the 1820s. So is it some kind of big huge cover up for technological gain? I say so, because lo and behold, we're talking about Antarctica. Isn't it kind of interesting that they have islands and different things that I can't speak about because it relates to the last 3 years? But isn't it kind of interesting they have these certain names for these islands that correlate to certain types of people and power grab, but they have an Antarctica tree down there where everybody migrates and has cupcakes and lollipops, and coffee and sunshine, and they're not allowed to seek war or anything like that, and they have this so-called common ground, so to speak. But there's a little fun in plug-in humor. But what I'm getting at is, what if the Space Force, all these secret societies, and they've just picked up make it more relevant, make it more enticing for the new generations, to come in and say, hey, check this out. We got all this esoteric knowledge. Check this out. What do you think, David?
Well, it goes all the way back to the Knights Templar. And when the Knights Templar were created, they say, well, they're for the purpose of protecting pilgrims on the way to the Holy Land. Well, they were anything but that. That's the cover story. And when you look at groups like Space Force, NASA, and so many of these groups, what they say they're all about is not even what they're even all about. There's a secret agenda. Each and every one of these little groups, NSA, DARPA, the whole shooting match, they're all an intricate part of a plan that's heading toward globalism and the outright destruction of human genome as being genetically pure. And all of these, and that's what they do. With key people within each of these organizations, they're able to control this through secret societies, and that's the way they roll. That's how they roll.
Well, switching gears, David, you want to talk about one of the iconic scenes in the film of Indiana Jones here, Raiders of the Lost Ark. What do you think, David? We think we should...
Yeah, absolutely. Take our viewers through those slides and set up these concepts, and just go through those, Brian. Absolutely.
So what we have here is a couple scenes. It's frame by frame. We're going to go and talk about this. It's pretty iconic, like I said a minute ago. But we're going to be deciphering this location that Mr. Indiana Jones is trying to find the location of the Ark of the Covenant. So with him doing this, he has to have a staff. So he goes in, finds this. It's just a model of like Egyptology. So they go in, and he's trying to map this room out of Tanis. Okay, he's trying to find the room of Tanis. So he finds it, and there's a chamber filled with these ancient hieroglyphics and all these artifacts, etc. But what he's holding there in his hand, as you can see here, he's holding a staff. Well, the staff of Ra, and it's a golden rod topped with like a crystal. I want to point out the crystal, because, and then one of the newer ones, the crystal skulls, there's always this crystal concept here when it comes to the Indiana Jones programs here, the franchise. He's really trying to figure out the exact location of the Ark of the Covenant. And in the background, you can see these intricate carvings on the walls, and there's a picture on the screen there of the raw imagery in the sun. Well, there's these gods, and he depicts the Egyptian gods in the background here. I'll show more. They're actually having a battle. I thought that was kind of interesting. The room's real quiet. The scene's really quiet. You can only hear like Indiana Jones and his footsteps during this scene. So I want to point this out, Brother David. I've seen this when it comes to ancient megalithic sites just in the wild, talking about Indian mounds, etc. They use light. Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
Well, freeze it right there. Let's look at this. Is that a bird on that staff?
That is a bird on that staff, Brother David. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, let's just speak to that little bird on the staff just for a moment. This ties in with something that we've been talking about in the Midnight Ride about the belief that these avatars that were the false messiahs, Lugalbande, Narmasin, Gilgamesh, and a host of others, they were all believed to be the incarnation of an Anzu, or the Thunderbird, or as it would be called in Egypt, the Bennu bird. And all of these ancient avatars and these false messiahs were believed to be the incarnation. So that's why we got the little bird up on there. That ain't Woody Woodpecker.
No, it's not Woody Woodpecker, David. And
Well,
well,
excuse me, Brian. Go ahead. That was just so right there in your face. I just want to say something about that. But
No.
excuse me. You go right
no,
ahead.
I'm glad that look. Go ahead and interrupt all you want, David. It's no problem at all. I appreciate it. It adds to it because this has got my gears turning here before we move on.
All right, let's look at old. My grandmother gave me this. And what it is thread. It's kind of a thick thread, but you sew by hand with it. And this is the way you used to buy it a long time ago. So there's that. And what you do is you cut it in half, and then that way you've got thread. Now, I've used this, but it's been a long time. And all you do is just take one piece out from your thread, like that, and then you thread your needle. Alright, I don't know where my end is. There it is. Alright, let's see if I can thread my needle. There it is. There we go. Yes. Alright. Now let me find my end. Like that. Get rid of the garbage. Alright. Mama cat, she's... Oh, I need to go up with it. I think I'll wait a little while because she ain't been in that long. And then we'll come back and we'll play with this. And maybe I can come up with a way I want to do it. I'm thinking about just crossing it. I don't know. That may be the way I do it.
You remember when we did our Gobekli Tepe? You remember at the
Yes,
Cygnus,
sir.
the Cygnus bird is there, the same
Yes.
imagery,
Same.
with those pillars,
Yes, sir.
same imagery, and
Yes, sir.
but yeah, that's a whole. But go check out Gobekli Tepe. We did a Gobekli Tepe Cities Lost in Time. Go check it out. Links in the description. I'm pretty sure I put it in the description, so check that out. It's got a lot of information there on Gobekli Tepe. So,
Yeah, and I just want to say that night we got off about over a half hour late because of just technical drama, and a lot of people didn't get to see it, but I was very pleased with that Gobekli Tepe Cities Lost in Time. If you missed it, go watch it. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
I agree 100%.
Go ahead, right ahead, Brian.
I agree 100%, David. So yeah, the Thunderbird, I agree, David, and this staff here. So this staff has, let's just say, mythical, magical abilities with the rays of the sun coming. So what we go on here, and it starts to really, the sun starts to slowly move into the access point of the hole there, and the sun starts to rise, and the beam of light shines through the crystal. So it's casting this bright light, and it's going over top of the Egyptian city. So when we go in, and we start to really, Andy's getting like, he's like, I'm correct, I was right. He's puzzled, right? He's starting to get really, all of his research is coming together. It's like all the gears are turning. So he's casting this bright light of this golden ray on the floor, and he watches in awe because he knows it's going to reveal something, a hidden map or some kind of location. He knows it. He's put all the effort into it, and it starts to move. And what he's finding is he's trying to find the location of the well of the souls. So the resting place of the ark, according to this film. And as he goes on, and he keeps getting, going over and over all the obelisks. You got to watch out. There's the obelisk in there, and this ray of light you can see in that slide there. The camera zooms out, and you can see the medallion. It's this intricate design etched into it, so the design looks like we was talking about earlier about the staff of Ra. But this ancient mechanism, it's sitting there going over top of this map of this location. It's showing this the right place. Well, I want to point this out here on FOJC here. Check this out. As soon as it gets to a certain point, it shows a cross, and I wanted to point that out and get your opinion on it, David. It's for a blink millisecond. I had to really go back and make sure that it was a frame, really super quick, because once it goes into this, and it's like an explosion with the sun rays of Ra here. But I really want to know your comments on this cross here, David, because this is giving Andy, or Mr. Indiana Jones here, the information that he needs to find the Ark of the Covenant. And I thought that this was it's blaspheming, and I want to know what you think about this, David.
Yeah, and if you think anything in a Spielberg film gets in there by accident, nothing's there by accident. And this is so quick. I don't think that hardly anyone would catch this if you don't slow the film down. It's like a subliminal message. And of course, this is a mockery of the cross of Christ with the old concept that, those guys that were believed they were the incarnation of the Anzu bird, the Thunderbird, they're the real saviors. And it's promoting the false Messiah concept that John spoke so well to on the Midnight Ride here just recently. But that's exactly what it is. And also, what do we see? We go in here and we see the great big obelisk. Well, in our Cities Lost in Time on Karnak, we showed there, and Brian had the actual Google Earth footage where they had the big pyramid and they had the lake of water. Well, what do we got in Washington, D.C.? And it's right here in the movie. Later on in the movie, toward the close, there they are in Washington, D.C. We see the Washington Monument and the reflecting pool right in front of it. The message is that now the seat of the false savior is right there in Washington, D.C. And there's absolutely no missing this. It's right there in front of her face. Nothing accidental about it.
Well, one thing too, David, I want to point out, you mentioned the Knights of the Templar a while ago too. It could be also not only blaspheming toward Christ, but it also could be revealing the Knights of the Templar imagery too. That's just my take on it, maybe. And it's
yes, sir, absolutely.
And it's showing the implosion. It implodes, explodes, right? And then you're enlightened. See, it gives you the enlightenment aspect, and that, to me, it was just it's very occultic for sure. And there's the outside and behind camera shot of Mr. Indiana Jones there. And what's so interesting, David, it shows light through the village. It shoots lights from all corners when it hits that one certain point where the crossing, right? It's kind of gets you all. It kind of makes you think of the eclipse when we was talking about the Nineveh cities lost in time. That crossing shows, and it's in there. So it's in this chamber, and you have all these gods fighting, these depictions of gods, but there's like this. This is the way I see it. They all come together when they're enlightened, and they get the light from Ra. And whoever carries and wields the staff gets enlightenment, gets information, and then has the knowledge to access the Ark of the Covenant, according to this film. And who wields the sword? Who wields the staff, right? And it gets into, there's a lot of cult meetings with that, but we can go down a big rabbit hole. But that's the way I take it. We have the hidden chamber, and we have this enlightenment if you go through supposedly this Ra bird-like staff. So what do you think, David?
Now, well, one more thing here we want to connect here. The staff of Ra, the sun god, is showing them where the well of the souls is. We have the false Messiah, and we're going to be showing you when we get to that point that it's a false Ark of the Covenant. It's not the real Ark of the Covenant. And when they're at the end of the movie, we all remember that end of the movie when all the spirits are coming out of the ark. Well, this is the release. Well, we find the well of the souls. We shine the staff of Ra. We've got the cross of the false savior. And these souls from the well of souls are released. That's what we're seeing, the release from this false ark of all these spirits that we see here. They're at that end of this movie that we all, if you ever seen the movie, you don't miss that.
Alright, let's see if I can show you how I'm doing it. I am going in and out like that. I'm literally making an X.
This is why all of this is too shocking for me. For the past few weeks,
and then I'm tying it twice.
Think about it too much. Has found this new gig at a club and has been a bit occupied with it. I've been ignoring his weird behavior, thinking it might be tired.
And I looked at the back of it, and you can't really tell it that it is.
And it would be all good for us.
So,
We're still trying for a baby.
anyway, I got 2 more to finish.
But we've got a consistent narrative being woven here of the false Messiah and of the secret Nazi Internationale.
Well, I want to point something out too before we move on, David. The staff, when you zoom in, it almost looks like there's a red or the top of the head of the phoenix, if you want to call it that, but the bird, it actually looks like it has a red medallion in it, like a red stone. We could go down a dark path with that. There's a lot of, we could only speculate, but I wonder if there's blood imagery there. You know, the blood of, you know what I mean? There's like this blaspheming, it's just, you know, indicating the blood of Christ, you know, that kind of nonsense. And that's where my mind goes when we do these decoding, these programs, but it's like a slap in the face to our Messiah, Jesus Christ. So.
And each and every one of these mystery religions, they used human sacrifice, each and every one of them. And absolutely, that blood there of the human sacrificial victim, it's the mockery and the satanic counterfeit of the precious blood of Jesus Christ.
Well, one thing too, we're decoding it here, and when the sun goes through, and I agree with you 100% about Jesus Christ here, but it almost reminds me, David, of the cutout in where the access point. It almost looks, if you can see on the screen there, it looks similar to Cobra, like the G.I. Joe narrative. You know, I hate to go down the rabbit hole, but it almost looks like it has two little, you know, it's got like the eyes. If you see it, it's kind of broken up. It's not a perfect circle, right? It's not perfect, obviously, because they tore down into it, but it's almost, and it makes me think of a snake imagery a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, the cobra, you know, the whole cobra kind of feel to it, and then you have the Ra and the snake. You have the Kundalini. You have this light, receiving the light, and then you use these staff to find this map, so to speak. And it's really dark and occultic, like Brother David disclosed at the beginning of the program. We're not, you know, promoting this movie. We are just trying to peel back the onion and show that the evidence we find on the occultic stance and stay away from it in a sense. Mm-hmm.
Now, you picked up on something very astutely there visually, that the imagery of the bird and the serpent runs together. And this comes to full fruition with Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. And also, this is the basilisk, which was part bird and part snake. So absolutely, this is just exactly a lot of what this symbolism portrays. And it's intentional. It's absolutely intentional.
Well, and one thing too, he had to fall into it, David. Think about it. Indiana Jones had to fall into it. Fallen state, right? It gets in, there's a lot of, you know, and it took a human to wield it, to be able to find the information. And he has to have, and if you remember when at the beginning of the film, and there's these, I think, scientist or archaeologist that's talking to him about the Germans, and he's referring to like the Ark of the Covenant, and goes and even makes biblical references. And then and Indiana Jones said, I don't believe any of that magical. He's just saying it's all a bunch of folklore, nonsensical, mythology stuff. He's like, I don't believe any of it. but then he goes, you know what I mean? So the portraying of this character, he's strong-willed and he gets it done, right? He gets it done. He's a let's just say he's a light bearer. Like he's bearing the light, and it's almost like there's this thing about he's, you know what I mean, he's coming to a fallen state and he becomes like a Gilberine to wield this sword of raw. You know, there's a human factor, then there's a fallen angel and a fallen man concept here too, also with plus the Kundalini, the whole serpentine thing and the feathered serpent. Yeah, David, this is deep here. Yes, sir.
And do you remember the scene there where Indy is riding the white horse?
Mm-hmm.
Could we even have some definitive false messiah symbolism sprinkled through this whole thing, like Brian was picking up on that? Well, there's the white horse. And of course, in the Muslim faith, the Mahdi rides the white horse, and many Christian scholars will interpret the white horse in Revelation as being that of the beast. So and I definitely think there's some of this false messiah imagery that's sprinkled throughout this whole movie.
Agreed, David.
All right. Are we ready for Mr. Steindorf here?
Yes, sir.
All right. I want to read something here from the religion of the ancient Egyptians to help us get an understanding of what the Egyptians meant by this well of the soul. It says here on page 126.
The manager showed back up. Good. Alright, I'm going to quit this one, and when we come back, we'll start assembling it to this quilt so we can have it done. I can't wait to see it completely done. This quilt has, I don't know what year I did it, or when I done it, but it's been a long time ago. Probably back in the 90s. I'd say probably about 93. I wish Jonathan knew, but he was too young. Alrighty, let's get back busy on trying to do this after this video.